Hey everyone, Tankenstein here. In this video, I've got your dev server overview for the Apex Predators dev server. And so this video will have all of the vehicles in the dev server that will be coming for the Apex Predators update, which will likely come out in the next week or two. Now, as said, not every single fact and stat and all that, not everything is completed in the dev server. So always take some of the values that you might see with a slight grain of salt. And some vehicles actually, and they've already mentioned it, some vehicles that will be coming in the final update are not actually in the dev server. So bear that in mind. Not everything that will be coming with the Apex Predators update will be in the dev server that I'm showing you right now, but mostly everything will be. So that being said, let's start off here. As you can see, the biggest possibly update that we have here is the inclusion of the F-16A. I believe this is the Block 10, but regardless, this the F-16A Fighting Falcon has access to a bunch of AIM-9Ls, 6 of them. Phenomenal rate of climb, phenomenal turn time, just honestly possibly the best fighter in game upon release. We'll have to wait and see to see if that is the case. Next up, we have the A6E Tram. This is going to be a pre-order for $70, and it is a 10.0 BR aircraft, the same BR as what you can get with the A10, and just about as slow, at least according to this, but it costs $70. So that said, you get AIM-9Ls with this, up to 4 of them, so I guess that's an upgrade in some regards for some people. You also have your GBU-12s, which are, very powerful, of course, GBU-10s, even more powerful, and your GBU-16s as well, and a bunch of cannons. Now, assuming you should be able to roll out with, let's say, 2 cannons, 2 AIM-9Ls, but this does not come with cannon standard, so if you do want cannons, you are going to have to put them on as secondary ordnance, which might be a bummer for some people. I know, myself included, but look at this. The F5C is a rank 6 at 10.3 BR, and this is a rank 7 at 10.0 BR. Awesome. Anyways, now when it comes to ground, there is one difference here, and it is the US M1128, the Wolfpack. So pretty much this is a striker, but with the camo netting that we saw on the premium Leopard 2A4, and it also has some chains around the wheels. Now, these chains do not provide any difference in traction, but this should be a pretty interesting thing. So this is pretty much just the M1128 striker, but again, with some additional aesthetic differences, and it does also have a slight difference in that it does not have the cage. Now, interestingly, in this update, they will be giving you the option to add or remove the cage around the striker at will. So technically, while this is lighter than the striker as of right now, you will be able to actually reduce the weight on the striker by removing the cage, which I'm sure a lot of people are going to be wanting because the cage doesn't really do all too much, just adds a bunch of weight, at least in War Thunder. Now, when it comes to ground vehicles, so for Germany, and finally for the US, for the coastal fleet, we do get the PT-812. Pretty much this just has a mortar on it with an 81mm grenade launcher, essentially, plus 2 40mm cannons, and of course 220mm cannons as well. Very, very powerful. It's got like smokestacks. It's a very strange looking vehicle essentially, but it should be pretty powerful if that's your thing. Now, going to Germany, there is nothing when it comes to ground forces for Germany, which is very odd. Most people think about it and they say ground forces, Germany, you get something new more or less every update. Not the case here. No helicopters, but of course we will be getting the MiG-21 Laser M. So some people pronounce it laser, some people pronounce it Laser, but people with funny accents say Laser. So I'm going to go with that. Pretty much this is a MiG-21 Bis Sau, except premium and $70. So if you want to get your nice MiG-23 MLA, which is now rank 8, so they took that out of rank 7, so now you have to actually grind for it at rank 8. You no longer can use your MiG-21 SPSK to get it. The Laser M is pretty much, again, the same. I believe some avionics are different, but this does have more or less, actually not even more or less, it does have the same exact weapon loadouts as what you would expect in a MiG-21 Bis Sau, which itself is very similar to what you could expect in a MiG-21 Bis. Now, that said, we also have the Type 1936C Z-47. Nothing really too special there. It's just a destroyer It's not an Elbing, I don't believe, but it is just, I believe, it's probably very similar to one of these. It is a blue water, so forgive my ignorance. I'm just not really all that with it when it comes to naval. Now we also have the V990. This more or less, I believe, has a cannon similar to what the BTR has. It's on the back of it. It's also got very, very powerful torpedoes that come out somewhere around the front, if I'm not mistaken, or right there. It's some funky system here that I just, again, am not all too familiar with, but it looks cool. This looks like one of those Russian oligarch yachts, but with a bunch of death on it. So that said, we also have, of course, other nations outside of there. So with Russia, we are not getting anything for ground forces. This is another one. A lot of people look at it and they say, okay, Russia is going to be getting ground forces. Not the case in this instance. Now, this is Apex Predators will largely be an update for aircraft. So bear that in mind. So if you're looking for a lot of ground forces, you are not going to be seeing them. So first and foremost, we are getting the MiG-29 913. This is something so many people have been waiting for so damn long, and this actually has the capability where now when you have an aircraft currently in War Thunder and you want to fire a missile at somebody, you have to physically adjust your aircraft to look where that, to basically look right at the enemy plane. Now, if you just simply look at the enemy, so just control your camera to look at them, you can lock on. And so this is also interesting because it has R-73s, which are likely going to be the most powerful missiles in War Thunder. And it's got around a 4-kilometer all-aspect range, 40 Gs of overload, 6 kilograms of TNT equivalent, just nasty, 2.4 or 2.5, Mach speed. So it's just a very, very powerful weapon. And it's so powerful, in fact, that Gaijin is relying on us in the dev server to tell them whether or not it should be released, with the MiG-29. So it's that powerful that Gaijin doesn't even know if this should come to game, but is waiting on us, essentially, to play this in the dev server to tell them if it's actually a not broken. Next up, we have the MiG-23 ML. This is pretty much an MLD, except ML. I believe there might be some slight differences to armament, but when it comes to relevant armament, at least, just the important thing. So this has everything that the MLD has when it comes to air-to-air. So it's got the R-23s, 24s, and the R-60s, as well as the R-13s. So it might be something related to bomb loadout, but otherwise it's pretty much the same thing. Got the same engine, same all of that. Now, when it comes to naval, there is nothing. There is the Ryani. My apologies. It's a rank 1 BR 3.7 destroyer because, again, I'm sure so many people are interested in naval. It's got a really, really cool paint scheme, so there's that, But again, nothing really to write home about. It's one of those things that I guess people might want to get, but you're talking about 550 GE for a rank 1. You can just get the Kerch. It makes no sense to get this at 550 GE. What the heck? Anywho, That's just ridiculous. Why wouldn't you just get the Kerch? Anyway, so England or Great Britain, they're going to be getting a new tank, the Khalid. This is pretty much a, if I'm not mistaken, a Challenger tank just with a better engine. So you have 1200, this is probably in AB settings, yeah. So you have 1200 horsepower with the Khalid and, my apologies, a Chieftain tank, I mean to say. But this is pretty much just a Chieftain tank, but with a much, much better engine. 1200 horsepower, but otherwise everything else remains the same. In the Khalid, it's got the same exact cannon, same everything. It does not have thermals, does not have a laser rangefinder at 9.0 BR, which is a bummer, of course, but it does have that really, really powerful engine, which I'm sure most people will be very happy about. Now, if you've noticed, there are not really many helicopters up to this point, and the reason being is because, again, helicopters are not so much, what we can expect. Now, Great Britain is actually getting quite a bit at top tier or close to top tier because they are getting 3 things in this update. So we are getting the Tornado GR1, something a lot of people have been waiting for, of course. It's a big chunky boy of an aircraft, very, very powerful, much more strike oriented than the F-16, the MiG-29. It only has 2 AIM-9Ls, but it has ridiculously powerful loadouts here. As you can see, it's got the ability to carry guided ordnance, laser guided bombs. It's got a bunch of dumb bombs that you can equip to this. I mean, very, very powerful bombs. And, of course, like I said, the AIM-9Ls. Now, this is all subject to change. These might actually change in the future. So who's to say that it won't get more armaments? I mean, to be honest with you, it's not really all too impressive right here, especially at the BR that it sits. But who knows? It could update. Now, we are also getting the F4J UK Phantom 2. So this is pretty much going to be about the American F4J, and more or less about the same. It does have access to Sky Flashes, AIM-7Es, and also the cannons, as well as AIM-9G. So not incredibly powerful when it comes to closer range, but the Sky Flashes are very, very nice. And this also has, of course, excellent close air support loadout. Not the greatest in game, but also not nearly the worst. Very, very powerful by anyone's means, even as we move into F-16 territory. And just to kind of show you, this is 11.3 VR, this is 11.3 VR, yet this is rank 7, and this is rank 8. Ranks don't matter, guys, and this just really, really sucks that they're bringing in rank 8. It just seems like a money grab because this is going to cost $70 USD, just as the A6E tram is going to cost. This is 70, this is 60, this is 70, this is 60, this is also 60, not that that really matters so much, but these two are 60, this is 70, and the only difference is that Gaijin felt like this should be able to research this and this. So again, real bummer. So finally we have the Sea Harrier FRS-1. This is the first Sea Harrier in War Thunder, technically labeled as a Sea Harrier. And it's pretty much a BR 10.7 squadron vehicle, interestingly enough, and it does have two AIM-9Ls, and it's got, I believe it is closer to the performance of the GR3, if I'm not mistaken, but of course it does have those AIM-9Ls, and it's just a very, very powerful aircraft overall. Now, time will tell if it deserves its 10.7 BR, but it is very, very powerful. Of course, it's going to be just about as quick as any other Harrier, but, maybe not quite as good as the Harrier GR7. So next up we have Japan. We have the Sub 1-2. This is a new SPAA that's coming to Japan. Only 5.3 BR, but it's ranked 4, oddly enough, at 5.3 BR. But I guess it kind of makes some sense with SPAA. They typically have funky rank and battle rating pairings, but more or less what this is kind of a martyr in a way. It's got 66 millimeters of armor pen at max, has access to APDS, and also if you notice, they have new, bullet animations. As you can see there, it looks really interesting. But again, this is going to be one of those things where it's got a good amount of power, nothing all too fantastic. It's just more or less a 20 millimeter cannon attached to a vehicle that has absolutely no armor protection. So when it comes to aviation, Japan is getting nothing, unfortunately. Well, technically, at least in theory, they're getting nothing on the dev server. But look at this. This is so stupid. Rank 7, rank 8. This is a rank 7, and this. Why? What's the point? You have one rank 7 and one rank 8 just for the purpose of screwing people who bought the T2 early out of money. So that also brings up another point. I think that there's going to be a tier 7 premium. So hold on to your wallets, guys, because that will be coming in the next update, possibly. There are actually numerous tier 7 premiums that are not shown in the dev server that will be coming in the next update. But as you can see, there's also nothing related to naval for Japan, so it's a pretty much dead for Japan thus far in the premium or in the dev server. Now, when it comes to China, they aren't getting anything outside of the WZ-1001. This is going to be a new top level SPAA. It's got a 5.8 millimeter machine gun. Really? That's so weird. It's so strange. Now, this is going to be obviously a very powerful weapon. It's got the 125i. It's got the DCT-10 125. This is the thing that guy probably got sent to a penal colony for or executed because he leaked the specs to Gaijin online in a forum. But pretty much this is just going to be a brand new top level tank for China. I don't believe there's all too much different between this and the Z99A. It's got more or less the same armor profile. It's kind of like how Japan did the TRX, I believe it was the TRX, the prototype versus their other autoloader, so very similar. So China is supposed to be getting some rank 8 aircraft. They did not say what and the dev server, but they are supposed to be getting them. Not really sure what, but they are getting the J7D. This is a very, very interesting plane, pretty much a MiG-21, but I guess J7D, and it does have access to the PL7s, which a lot of people have been wanting for a long time. This is more or less like a Magic 2 missile, if I'm not mistaken. So it's kind of the Chinese variant, the copy of the PL or the Magic 2. But it also has some pretty decent close air support options. Of course, anything based on the MiG-21, when it comes to close air support, you only use that in a pinch if you need to. The A5C is substantially better when it comes to close air support, in my opinion. As you can see, it's got a much heavier loadout when it comes to CAS, but again, to each their own. It is still going to be a very, very powerful weapon in the J7D when it comes to air-to-air. Now, Italy is going to be getting the F-104S TAF. If I'm not mistaken, this is the same exact thing as the F-104S, except, of course, a rank 7 premium that costs $70. And it's going to have access to AIM-9Ps, Bs, good amount of close air support loadout, some air RB stuff. So this should be enough to destroy a base in air RB, but I don't know why you would do that, because it absolutely kills your performance. 190 meters per second off your climb time. That's ridiculous. But of course, if you want to, you could certainly go ahead and do that. But again, this is the Turkish Air Force variant, the TAF, as you could see. And again, premium. Now, apparently there's supposed to be a rank 8 aircraft coming to War Thunder, so that you can actually justify using this to research the rank 8 aircraft. But as of right now, there is nothing about it. So there is going to be an Italian vehicle coming. It's pretty much just a truck with some SPAA on the back. This has the same mount, I believe, as the American M16. As you can see, it's not really textured in yet, so it kind of looks like one of those green army toys that kids would play with, at least here in the States. So nothing really all too special, but it is a meme truck, as what Italy is kind of known for at this point. Now, they are going to be getting a new vehicle here, a light cruiser, the Duca degli Abruzzi class, RN Duca degli Abruzzi 1944, because why not? Why not name it like that? Italy has some funny naming conventions sometimes. It's like they like to repeat themselves, but at least historically speaking, that's what they would do. Very cool looking. It's got a ton of armament, but again, I mean, this is naval. It's got very powerful 152 millimeter cannons. You have like, what, 2 there? So 2 double turrets and then 2 triple turrets. Pretty cool, but again, this is naval. How many people are actually going playing that? I don't know. And that pretty much ends it for Italy. So again, this dev server takes some things that you see with a grain of salt, because not everything in the actual server that will be coming with the update is here in the dev server. But next up, we have the AMX-32-105. This is a 105mm equipped AMX-32, as the name implies. So it should be a little bit better. In some ways, I believe possibly reloading rate, but it does have access to the OFL 105F1. But, you know, again, pretty standard fare, I guess you could say, relative to the AMX-32. It does have a slightly lower BR, which is definitely nice, and it does also weigh about 2 tons less, so it should have a little bit better maneuverability when it comes to just traversing the landscape. Now, when it comes to France in air, apparently, I think they're supposed to be getting a new rank 8. You know, of course, they can just slap vehicles like the Mirage 2000 CS5 in rank 8 and call that a new vehicle in rank 8, but they are supposed to be getting an actual vehicle in rank 8. We just don't know what it is yet. Now, going over to Sweden, let's start off here with the Army. They are not going to be getting anything outside of the T55M. This is pretty much just a T55, but M for modernized, if I'm not mistaken. And it does have access to the 3BK17M, but more importantly, the M1000A1. This is a new APF SDS shell that is coming to game. It costs more than the 3BK17M. Not really entirely sure why. It might have something to do with the... Oh, my apologies. I was looking at this as though this was APF SDS. This is APF SDS, this is TFS. I really have no idea. My apologies for that, but this will be the top shell that you can get. Pretty damn good at this BR for having APF SDS. Should be very powerful and will also help to fill out the Swedish lineup at around 8.3 BR, which is, you know, very nice. I really like how they added the Finnish tech tree, because this helps to fill in a lot of the gaps that we saw with the regular Swedish tech tree. Now, following this development, we don't really have anything, at least again on the dev server, for Sweden, and apparently they will be getting, I believe, a rank 7 premium, possibly a rank 8 regular tech tree vehicle. Let me know in the comments below if that's correct. That one I'm not sure of. But going to Israel, Israel's getting a few things. Notably, they're getting the Magach 7C, which is essentially a new variant of the M60. It's very interesting looking, might be a good way to put it, and it more or less is kind of like how the M48 Super is, but M60 style, and it has access to the M426, so very, very powerful APF SDS. This is kind of what you're going to be using if you don't really like the turtley playstyle of the Mark IID, the Merkava Mark IID. As you can see, I mean, this has the M111, not quite as good. Oh, wow, it actually has the M413 now. My apologies for that. I didn't realize that the Mark IID had the M413. They must have added that somewhat recently. I feel like a fool now. But either way, the Magach 7C, a new regular tech tree variant, pretty much up engine 2, very, very cool. And finally, when it comes to the aircraft, we are getting two for Israel. We are getting the Kfir Canard, as you can see here, 11.0 BR. I believe it's the Kfir C2, or C1 rather, but of course it's got some sort of a Canard designation. I believe that the historical explanation for including this into the game was that they loaned a bunch of these out to the US for like 25 of them for testing purposes in an aggressor role, but it's yeah, this is just a Kfir essentially. It's got access to AIM-9Gs, got access to AIM-9Ds if you want them for whatever reason, and of course the typical loadout for close air support, and also some cannons underneath the wings. But more or less this is going to be about the same performance as the C2, but kind of technically I guess the C1. And then finally we have the F-16A Nets, which is again going to be an 11.7 BR fighter. It does have access to this really, really cool camouflage, really good looking, but it also has access to the AIM-9Ls. Fewer ordnance options, so I believe it does not have access to the guided bombs that you would see with the American version, and you know, it's just a little bit less capable technically speaking, but again, it is an F-16, so there's that. But that's pretty much everything on the dev server. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I am definitely interested to see your opinions on this. Either way, thanks so much, and I'll see you all on the other side. Take care, everyone.